Hello and welcome. I'm your pageant coach, Alicia Darby, and today in this video, I want to cover for you the 2 ways that you can actually gain confidence for your pageant. I've got my little cheat sheet of notes here because I got a lot to cover. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to also share with you where you can go to get even more free pageant coaching. So, okay, 2 ways to gain confidence. Now, these are very different ways, okay? One that I'm gonna share with you is very detrimental to your actual experience, and the other is the only way to actually win your pageant, okay? So the detrimental thing, this is the first way that you can gain confidence, is ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. Now, you've probably heard that saying before, and it's true, actually, that when you are ignorant to something, which ignorance is just not knowing what you don't know. So if you have no clue about something, and then you might be really fully confident in that area. And I've got a few examples for you about things that actually have happened to me when I was competing. So this is like, I don't know if you remember The Real World. Are you old enough to remember The Real World? Where their whole tagline was, you think you know, but you've got no idea. And that's essentially what ignorance really is. So let me share with you. So I have naturally very curly hair. If I get wet or go swimming or something, my hair is like super curly. When I first started competing, I had no idea that there was this thing called pageant hair. Like, I just didn't know that. I thought, oh, we should all just be loved for naturally who we are. And so in a pageant competition, I actually wore my hair curly for one night of competition. And then the next night I wore it straight for another night of competition. And it was so blissful because I was just completely ignorant to the fact that that is not what you do, okay? You really need to have a similar look throughout all of your pageant competition, because when you're competing with so many different women, you've got to stand out in some way. And so you've got to be consistent across all areas of competition. I did not know that when I first started. Another thing I didn't know when I first started, we're talking about the 2 ways to gain confidence, and the first is ignorance. And I was ignorant to the fact that people do not go to rehearsal wearing sweatpants. They don't. They dress like pageant girls. And here I am thinking we're at like a dance rehearsal, you know? And so I show up thinking that that is like a normal rehearsal. I'm wearing dance pants and like t-shirt and, you know, basically gym clothes. And I'm realizing everyone else is dressed as a title holder, okay? This is the problems from way back in the day. So again, I was blissful because I had no idea until it actually showed up in the moment and it's happening to me. And that's when I'm realizing, okay, this is not good. This is not helping me at all. Here's an example of a client of mine who was fully prepared for her pageant, and she roomed with a woman who had equal level of confidence, but this woman had no clue what was going on. And at some point, they shared paperwork with one another. And my client and I had worked extensively on preparing her paperwork. I truly believe that the top 10 can be selected from paperwork alone. So in that process, we really prepared her to be in the top 10. And she was, you know, interacting with her roommate, and they're like, oh, what's your paperwork? What's your paperwork? They compared paperwork, and of course, they were completely different. The poor roommate of hers had no idea. She didn't know. And thank goodness this was after interview, so the other girl didn't have to feel bad, you know, showing up to her interview with that. She was completely confident in her interview because she had no idea that isn't how you do it. So again, ignorance is one way to gain confidence for your interview. But of course, that is not what I am suggesting for you. Instead, I want you to go with the second way that you can gain confidence for your pageant, and this is through the truth. Now, knowing the truth, knowing what the girls really do wear in rehearsal, and knowing how your paperwork ought to be, and having an understanding of really what to expect, knowing the truth of really what goes on behind the scenes of pageantry, is going to give you confidence only if you apply that truth. So applied truth is really what brings true confidence. Think about if you know the truth and you do not implement it at all, that's actually going to be worse than just being ignorantly blissful. So you've got to actually apply the truth. And there are so many things in the pageant industry you know, when I talk with my peers about, you know, we ask someone, well, what do you do? Well, what do you do? And I say, I work with women who are preparing to compete in beauty pageants, and I help them to understand their unique characteristics and apply that to win their pageant. Okay, that's what I do. And in pageantry, after you've been around pageants for a while, you realize that that is what happens. But if you haven't been around pageants for some ever before, or even a significant amount of time, that's like crazy to even think that there's a whole strategy behind winning, and that girls actually get coaching, and that they are talked through this whole process of every single phase. So when I tell people that this is what I do, they're like shocked to think that, oh, I just thought that it was based on natural beauty, or that it was just based on natural characteristics that, you know, the girls show up with. And that of course is not true, but that is the perception. And in fact, now I promised you that I would tell you where to get additional free pageant training. And so I actually have a full website dedicated to this. Every Wednesday, like today, Win a Pageant Wednesday, I post a new pageant training. And today's pageant training, this is at winapageant.com/74. In fact, I've got a handy dandy little note for you here. Today's pageant training is about the 4 myths of pageant interview. And I do not want you to be falling for these myths, but rather I really want you to understand the truth, because when you have the truth and when you know how to apply it, that's going to be the thing that gives you true confidence to win your pageant. And that, my dear, is how you win a pageant. So pop on over. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, but pop on over to winapageant.com/74. Again, my name is Alicia Darby, and thanks so much for joining me on this live edition of Win a Pageant. Bye for now.